Okay, I guess I'll just start this myself.
Or you can actually come back and do your job with me.
We're back, folks. Yeah, okay. We are. We have completed the Torah, the first 5 books that Moses wrote, and now he's dead. And now there's a new leader of the Israelites.
You really just said that. You really just described. And you're like, now he's dead. Really? Really? Do you not recognize the fact that the entirety of Israel took time to mourn that tragic loss? Really? Really?
What I'm saying is
Shameful.
What I'm saying is
I will lead since you're not worthy. So, let's start with a recap, which is what you should have done.
Okay.
The story so far.
After the fall of humanity.
I said I would lead.
Okay, but
I'm
well,
reading this. You don't got to. Every single book of the Torah, you always spoke first. That's changing. This is not the Old Testament anymore. We completed the first part of the Old Testament.
We're still in
this
the
is
Old Testament.
This is the new Old Testament. So it's really, let's do this.
What is that supposed to mean?
The story so far. After the fall of humanity in Genesis, God chose Abraham to have his family become the nation Israel, which spawned from one of Abraham's sons, Judah. Unfortunately, they're almost immediately enslaved down in Egypt in Exodus, but God rescues his people through Moses and by proxy Aaron, who helped out. After making a covenant in Mount Sinai and in the second half of Exodus and the entirety of Leviticus, which is just like a side piece to the second half of Exodus, the whole crazy wilderness journey unfolds in Numbers, which is just wild. They camped outside of the promised land, with Moses giving them one final lecture on God's commands and the Torah in general in Deuteronomy before dying. And that's where Joshua begins.
Yes, Joshua, the new leader of the Israelites who got his own book named after him.
Real.
So now that I hopefully won't be judged for leading somewhat, Joshua leads Israel. Let's talk about a different leader. Chapters 1 through 5. The first part of the book focuses on Joshua taking leadership of Israel with the anonymous
Nobody
author.
knows who he is. I doubt that he's part of the hacker group Anonymous, but technology didn't exist in any way, shape, or form back in these days. So, although this could mean that the anonymous hacker group might have existed since the biblical times.
They didn't. The anonymous author describes Joshua as a new Moses. So first up, emulating the second half of Exodus, which Brother Daniel talked about. He calls on Israel to obey the commands of the Torah, specifically the 10 Commandments.
He basically just
given to them at Mount Sinai.
He basically just busts them out like if a teacher, let's say that the smartest kid in the entire school, he goes to a new advanced class and the teacher wants to really test if he is actually the smartest kid in the whole school. So he basically asks him 10 practically impossible questions for any single other student, and that smart kid just breaks out all of the answers in detail without needing to write them down. That is essentially what happens here, except it's the 10 Commandments. And was anyone really smart during this time? I mean, wisdom is different. Wisdom is different from intelligence. Wisdom is intelligence, but it's for general life. Intelligence is wisdom, but it's only useful for not getting your video game console taken away by your parents if you get bad grades.
Well, Joshua was smart during this time, and he called on people to obey the commands.
You mean wise?
Called on people to obey the commands of the Torah. Now, moving on, number 2, emulating Numbers. He sends spies out to see how the promised land is.
This is specifically important because Joshua himself was a spy.
That's how he got his start in the story.
He was a spy that went out to the promised land when Moses did the same thing in Numbers, and it went terribly, but he was one of the 2, count them, 1,
There are two computers here.
spies that was optimistic about the promised land, about as optimistic as SpongeBob usually. Now he wasn't as much of a spy as like James Bond is. Spies don't really exist, they're just fiction fluff. Although I'm not really sure. I don't really know how spies worked back in the day. But yeah, so this time he does the same thing as good old buddy Moses did, who is now dead, like you rudely pointed out at the beginning of this episode.
But it was Joe.
You need to do it respectfully.
Okay, rest in peace, Moses, I guess.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
Oh wait, we need to press F. I just pressed my F key.
Okay, I pressed the F key.
No, you didn't. You pressed the space key because... press the F key.
There
Okay,
we go.
good.
I did it.
I wasn't going to move on until you did.
Okay.
We could be here for 6 hours and you would not touch the F key and we would still be recording, but you still wouldn't have done it, so we would not have moved on. Not a single bit. We would have prevented our viewers from getting the proper knowledge they need on the book of Joshua.
Well,
So
this
there
is
you
the
go.
6th book of the Bible, so okay.
Yeah.
So, continuing on, this time, unlike what's happening in this video that is being uploaded to the video sharing platform YouTube, it goes much better than
goes
last time. Because if you
awesome.
remember, last time was awful. This time, it's awesome. Some Canaanites, i.e. Rahab, even convert to Christianity.
Yeah. Okay, Rahab is the only notable one. Don't try thinking of names.
Okay. Now the last one, number 3, emulating Exodus. The Jordan River parts for the Ark of the Covenant and the people of Israel when they cross over into the Promised Land.
To be
Not
fair,
as big as the Red Sea, but still impressive.
To be fair, this one isn't really that notable because, well, they just needed some way to get into the Promised Land. And I mean, it is a river. It's lame compared to the Red Sea. Very lame, but even then,
It's still cool.
that lame thing is much better than what we humans usually pull off in this world.
Quite.
Eh.
So, but there is one last whimper from this section. In chapter...
One last whimper. That sounds like it just got out of a torture machine.
Huh.
You really have to mind your language.
Okay.
I've already taught you that,
So, let me correct myself. I apologize. We still have one last bang from this chapter.
Thank you.
In chapter 5, Joshua has an encounter with a mighty, mysterious warrior and asks him whether he's on Israel's side or their enemies. He responds, neither. And then he's never seen again. But he was actually the angel of the Lord, another mighty and mysterious figure in the Bible in the Old Testament.
It's like asking, well, I doubt that many people have this type of encounter where they just encounter someone random and they ask them a question and they say neither to it, but let's say that you randomly walk up to this like 40-year-old looking man and you ask him, hey, did you grow up with Power Rangers or Super Sentai? And he responds, neither. And then you realize that he is the current showrunner of the former. But he didn't grow up with either. How did that happen?
Actually, how did that happen?
That never would have happened.
Anyways, you'll hear about the angel of the Lord later, but let's focus.
Much later, not in this video. Don't get excited.
But let's focus and move on to the battles with the Canaanites. 6 to 12. And you can read this one.
There are two major battles that the Israelites fight after entering the Promised Land. First, they managed to time travel to 1918 and sneak their way into World War I. Then they managed to wait it out until 1942 and fight their way through World War II.
That was actually a really smart joke.
Then they all got extinct from the Holocaust because they were all Jews.
Oh, wow. Okay. You really had to throw that in, huh?
Yes, I did.
Good luck to anyone from Germany who's gonna watch this.
Or Israel.
Real good luck. So, as we were saying,
Actually, you know what document says. They serve to make a point on how if Israel wants to inherit the land, they must be obedient. Because the first battle they fought is the Battle of Jericho. Israel is entirely faithful to God, following God's instructions to take a completely passive approach, just be chill about it, and they famously broke down the Wall of Jericho.
by shouting.
You know, it's kind of like how the Berlin Wall fell. People just had enough. They just broke it down themselves, and it was actually pretty cool.
Or like when an opera singer can break glass.
Which I don't actually think happens in real life. They just exaggerate it for the purposes of exaggerating it. Hollywood, man. Unfortunately, nobody ever did the same thing to Donald Trump's wall on Mexico, but, you know, I guess sometimes this world just pulls off something so amazing it can never be pulled off again. It's not really
Like
that
this,
thing.
the Battle of Jericho.
Yeah, nobody has ever really done this again.
Unfortunately, they didn't seem to do that the second time.
Which, again, you know, they couldn't, but they really could have at least done something good. This time in the Battle of Ai, it's spelled A-I. It's not spelled S-I-R-I, or it's not spelled G-O-O-G-L-G-A-S-S-I-A-T-A-N-T, or A-L-E-X-A, or B-I-B-X-Y. No, it's spelled A-I.
What words were you even spelling there?
Siri, Google Assistant, Alexa, and Bixby.
Oh my goodness.
You're the tech nerd of our family. You couldn't figure that out for your life?
I was trying to focus here.
Oh, okay. Huh. Israel is unfaithful after an Israelite priest does something very lame. He just steals some of the treasure they got from the Jericho victory. And initially, they got wrecked by Ai.
But eventually, they learned from their mistakes. Well, not really learn from that mistakes. That guy who stole the treasure,
God deals with him.
He just
very
gets
badly.
murdered in cold blood. And then they win.
You know, it's kind of like after like, let's say your parents tell you to do the chores, you do like all of the dishes, the laundry, and they're really happy about that. But then immediately after, you steal like an extra Oreo from the pantry and they smack you into the next school year for that. But then you apologize to them and they punish you to the next time Oreo makes a new flavor.
Which is not that far off. There are a lot of Oreo flavors.
Best one is golden.
Anyways.
Agree with me or we're not moving on?
Okay, yes, golden is
Do
the
you
best.
genuinely agree with me?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay, good.
After this, the rest of the chapter details how the Israelites adapt to their new life, as well as listing all of their victories.
Basically, to name certain events, there's this certain group of Canaanites known as Gibeonites, and they pretty much all completely convert to Christianity, which is really cool. Every single Israelite king well, actually, no, not Israelite king. Every single Canaanite king, they just make an alliance together to try and take down the Israelites. Kind of like when Epic Games, they got screwed over by Apple and Google because they tried to make their own currency in Fortnite. So they got literally every single other slightly notable tech company to join them in fighting back.
They still lost.
I don't really know if the alliance is alive.
It's not.
Oh well. And yeah, the last chapter of this section is just a long list of Israel's victories. Way to brag, Israel. Wow. You don't need to shove it in our face.
Anyways, Joshua divides up the land, 13 to 22. After all the battles, Joshua's aged significantly.
You know, it's like if you, okay, for our Japanese viewers, like just I don't know what example to use. Like, I actually don't.
I don't know. Whenever they see older Super Sentai characters in newer Super Sentai media, imagine that.
Deja vu. I doubt anyone from that period is alive.
Great. But yes, Joshua has aged significantly, much more than
Significantly.
even the example we listed here.
Yeah.
And decides to split
pretty old.
apart the PL, Promised Land, via the inheritance of the 12 tribes of Israel.
We never really discussed this in the other videos, but there are indeed 12 different tribes of Israel. The Bible goes into very deep detail about that.
The one that you'll probably notice we've been focusing the most on is the tribe of Judah, because that's where the most important man in this book is going to come. We're not going to name drop him, but still.
Also, the tribe of the Levites, which were basically the people that led Israel, through the whole wilderness journey.
They're probably the second most important. So, all of this might seem very boring.
It is
You read
very,
it's
very,
not exactly the most exciting thing compared to all the battles we've been talking about.
very, 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 very so agonizingly, terribly boring. It's like watching it's like watching the first episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and then immediately skipping to the first episode of RPM. I'm gonna be honest, season 1 is gonna be just deathly boring. About as deathly boring as Kim and Jim is death at the end of RPM.
But to the Israelites, it was highly important. Not people in spandex fighting monsters of the week.
That is not spandex.
Okay, it's not spandex.
I feel the need to point that out.
Got it. It was highly important. This list was highly important. It was the fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham.
Well, at least a part of it.
And now, Joshua's final words, 23 to 24. You can take this one.
I need to look up Joshua's final words, though.
What? Nobody knows his actual true final words.
Whose final words do I look up then?
No one else.
Wait, who's a famous person named Joshua?
You don't know any. We're really doing this, huh? Okay, well,
No. Don't say anything.
what is happening right now?
Do not say anything. I've got this. Wait, I just realized practically none of these people are dead. Wait, famous people named Joshua. That are dead. It's gonna take a while, don't worry about it. Let me see. Is there anyone?
Now might be a good time to remind you to like this video if you've enjoyed it, and to also subscribe to our YouTube channel, to hit the notification bell so that you never miss when we upload videos like this. And sorry, man. Okay. And maybe comment down below if you liked this video. And maybe you can tell us some other ideas for videos we might want to see. You might want to see.
So, there's this kind of famous person named Joshua. He was an American athlete. He's an Olympic medalist. You've probably never heard of him. And he died last year at the age of 88. Unfortunately, nobody seems to know what his final words were. But, well, he's named Joshua Colbreath. So let's just assume his final word was breath. His entire family was surrounding him, all of his friends, all of his coaches, and he said breath. And then he died. Let's just assume that. So,
If
Joshua's
his family watches this, I don't even know how they're gonna react. So how about we just finish this up?
Joshua in the Bible's final word was breath.
No, it wasn't.
It certainly was breath.
Regardless.
We have a father named Joshua. When he dies, his last word is probably gonna be breath. Think about it.
No, it's not.
Actually, maybe it's not.
Thank you. So, regardless, at the end of Joshua, the biblical figure's life, I feel like I need to specify that now.
Fair.
Joshua, the biblical figure, gives 2 speeches, very similar to Moses in Deuteronomy, basically copying like a crappy video game port, like Sonic the Hedgehog on the Game Boy Advance. It's like the same thing of the original, except it's unplayable. And this is the Christian Whitehead mobile ports.
Oh, that's fair.
Reminding them of God's generosity and telling them to choose faithfulness and blessing.
They will get blessing out of faithfulness.
over unfaithfulness and exile.
They will be exiled due to unfaithfulness.
So,
What do they choose?
They choose, actually, we can't tell you because that's the end of
And we don't know ourselves. Don't put yourself above everything. We don't know ourselves.
Okay, so
We don't know ourselves.
we will know.
We don't know ourselves.
Okay, at the
We
current
don't know ourselves.
at the current moment,
No response to what I'm saying. We don't know ourselves, do we?
we don't.
Thank you.
Okay, at the current moment, we don't know, but we will know when we take a look
All of
at
us
the
will
book of
know.
Judges, and then we will take that into a video format and then send it up to you guys. So,
Clearly.
that was the book of Joshua.
It is great to be back on these videos, and it is great to have a new start after Joshua. I mean, the Torah and stuff and whatnot.
So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we still don't know how to end videos properly.
Yeah, we really don't.
Farewell!